Howard gets it in, but it's knocked away by Lexie Hull. Hull with the steal. And the Indiana Fever, beset by major injuries all year long, are on the doorstep of making the semifinals.
This was more than just a game. It was a gut-check moment. Win or go home. The Indiana Fever were shorthanded, missing 6 players, frustrated by officiating, and playing with no room for mistakes. The question was simple. Could they handle the pressure? In Game 3 of the WNBA playoffs against the Atlanta Dream, they answered with a resounding yes. Kelsey Mitchell attacked fearlessly down the stretch, Aaliyah Boston battled relentlessly in the paint, and Lexie Hull delivered the play of her career. The result? Indiana punched their ticket to the semifinals for the first time since 2015. Now comes the bigger question. Was this just a flash of brilliance, or the beginning of the Fever's long-awaited rise? Drop your thoughts in the comments, Fever fans. This one's for you.
Through so much this season, giving ourselves another chance in Game 3. Emotions are high.
This is a group that's confidence has really never wavered. This group has continued to show their heart, their character, night in and night out.
I think we all piggyback off each other within our group and our organization.
We've been in every kind of situation you can imagine, and we've been able to find ways to put ourselves in position to win, and this will be no different.
Somebody has to lose and somebody has to win.
Imagine enduring nearly a decade without a single playoff series win. That drought doesn't just sit quietly on a stat sheet, it lingers over a franchise, its fans, and every player who pulls on the jersey. The last time the Indiana Fever made it this far, Tamika Catchings was still the heartbeat of the team. Natasha Howard was just starting her career, and Stephanie White was in her first run as head coach on the sidelines. That was 2015, a league that felt worlds apart from today. Fast forward to now, and the Fever walked into a decisive game, 3 carrying more than basketball on their shoulders. This was about history, and once again it was here to test them.
Desperation before Game 2 on Tuesday, just how does that carry over into tonight?
Well, I think anytime that you're a win-or-go-home situation, there's desperation, and so it has to carry over. You know, we're in the same situation. Our back is against the wall. We got to come out and we've got to play with that sense of urgency. We've got to play with that hunger. We've got to value every single possession and every.
What made the moment even heavier was the state of Indiana's roster. Think about it: Caitlin Clark sidelined, Sophie Cunningham out, Sydney Colson unavailable, Chloe BBY, Ari McDonald, and Damiris Dantas all on the injury list. That's a massive chunk of experience and scoring power wiped away. Suddenly, this wasn't just another playoff game, it was win or go home with a group forced to stretch every ounce of talent and chemistry just to survive. No one outside that locker room believed they had a chance. But in that doubt, they found their edge. With nothing to lose, the Fever had
on Lexie Hull got me riled up because this was early on in the game, and this was probably the best defense that Lexie could have played. If you watch this play here, Ryan Howard is going down, Lexie Hull's guarding her, Ryan goes behind her back, Lexie doesn't touch her because she's backpedaling the whole time, she has her hands straight up. Like, this is really good defense that Lexie played here.
And who could forget how Game 1 unraveled? A parade of phantom whistles, momentum-killing calls, even a technical on their head coach. The frustration in the building was impossible to miss, glaring even through the television screen. The Fever didn't let that slip from memory. They carried the sting with them, turning anger into fuel. This wasn't just about advancing, it was about reclaiming their name after being denied a fair shot just nights earlier.
Fever are heading to the semifinals.
Driving to the foul line, and the paint lays it in. Sims crossover left to right, gets into the paint, layup, good!
Inside, Boston.
The tone was set before a single shot went up. In pre-game interviews, Kelsey Mitchell looked calm, locked in, as if she already knew she'd have to carry the scoring load. Aaliyah Boston spoke softly, but her quiet confidence carried weight, ready for the bruising battle inside she couldn't avoid. On paper, the odds looked lopsided. Atlanta was healthy, fueled by home court momentum, and eager to slam the door on Indiana's run. The Gateway Center Arena crowd was primed to celebrate. But here's the truth: Indiana wasn't just facing the dream. They were staring down nearly a decade of frustration, 6 key injuries, and a lingering belief that they weren't ready to break through. In that storm, the Fever made their choice. They chose fight over fear. Which raises the question, could a few defining moments from individual players finally flip the script and turn years of waiting into the start of something new?
To Jones. Throws it up. No good! Game over! And the Fever are moving on!
The Fever found themselves in the kind of moment that can define an entire season. Down late in Game 3, swallowed by the roar of nearly 4,000 Atlanta fans, every possession carried the weight of months of struggle. A year's worth of fights, injuries, and doubt all funneled into those final minutes, and the crowd was desperate to drown Indiana in silence. But the Fever refused to fold. Instead, they leaned on the players who had carried them all year, and one by one, those players stepped straight into the fire.
First, second foul, so Hillman and Gray each with 2. Mitchell over the Boston screen.
And that was tough, her hands. But going back to that ball screen here, little movement in the first part of that screen by Aaliyah Boston.
Mitchell, man,
she is so good.
Kelsey Mitchell was the heartbeat that kept Indiana alive. Atlanta threw everything at her, crowding the paint, sending double teams, collapsing whenever she touched the ball. Still, Mitchell poured in 24 points, with 19 coming before halftime, a scoring burst that kept the Fever afloat in hostile territory. When the Dream tightened her lanes, she adapted, dishing out assists, contesting shots, doing whatever it took to keep momentum from slipping away. Scoring through constant defensive pressure is never easy, but Mitchell refused to fade. She kept attacking, and her teammates drew strength from her unwillingness to back down.
attacking from the outside and now the inside. And Mitchell's been quiet for a while. Not anymore. Mitchell over to Boston. Again, the shot clock winding down. Mitchell, tough shot off the bounce to get around Jones.
2 steps behind the three-point line and the dribble handoff for Kelsey Mitchell.
Inside the paint, Aaliyah Boston was busy carving out her own narrative. Matched up against Brianna Jones, she absorbed the pounding in the low post and never once let her composure crack. On paper, Jones held the size advantage, but Boston erased it with her instincts, winning with timing, positioning, and a growing mastery of sealing her defender before the battle even began.
This is just 4 of 16 from the floor in game 2. That's terrific. Paul into Boston.
Beautiful read.
14 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. That stat line barely captured her true impact. Every rebound came in traffic, wrestled away with sheer determination. Every assist created a lifeline, setting up shots the Fever desperately needed. Boston wasn't just holding her ground. She was anchoring the middle of an undersized, undermanned lineup with poise far beyond her years. In the biggest game of Indiana's season, she became the steady force that turned survival into belief.
Good. 40%. Maybe a little higher than that, 45.
Indiana electing not to call a timeout. Boston almost gave it away. Into Boston for the lead. She hits it. Indiana goes up.
Boston gets it. Mitchell is denied, but then Jordan Canada falls. Bree Jones almost gets it, but that's a second defender that's gone down, and Bree Jones.
And then there was Natasha Howard, a player whose value doesn't need flash to be felt. Her hustle created possessions that shouldn't have existed. Loose balls that looked certain to land in the Dream's hands somehow found their way back to Indiana, thanks to her length, anticipation, and relentless energy. Howard's fingerprints were all over the margins of the game, the kind of effort plays that don't always make highlights but win playoff battles.
Has to really body up with Bree Jones in that situation.
Natasha Howard slashing in. Sims got around the Ryan Howard reach to find Natasha Howard.
The court, Odyssey Sims has 7 points, 3 assists. She's looking to attack.
Odyssey Sims brought a different edge and aggression Atlanta never fully solved. She attacked defenders head-on, absorbing contact and turning every drive into a chance to shift momentum. Her 6 points and 8 assists carried extra weight, coming from a player who hadn't even been with the roster all season. That adaptability, paired with her veteran leadership, gave Indiana exactly what they needed in hostile territory: grit, creativity, and composure under fire.
Skill set and all that she can do.
It's the first miss for Atlanta as Howard could not get it to go. Odyssey Sims, this is what head coach Stephanie White wants from Odyssey. Ray with 10 points so far. Sims dribbled right into trouble and was able to score and get fouled.
And you can't overlook Brianna Turner. She may not have been a constant in the regular season rotation, but on this night, she was indispensable. She clogged lanes, contested shots, and read plays before they even unfolded. When fatigue and foul trouble threatened to unravel Indiana's rotations, Turner became the backbone that held them steady. Her reputation as a pro who's always ready came to life in this game. She did all the little things without needing touches, and that selflessness gave her teammates the space to shine.
Posting up, setting a screen ultimately that Shea Penny ran into.
Anytime Atlanta needs a bucket, they look to her, and she's wanting the ball as well with the last score for Atlanta.
Aerial Powers was the spark plug. Her minutes were limited, but her impact was unmistakable. She dove on the floor, fought through screens, and injected pace into every possession. The way she carried herself lifted those around her. Teammates played harder, the bench grew louder, and the defense buzzed with more energy. Hustle doesn't always show up in a box score, but with Powers on the floor, you could feel the momentum steadying.
Of the signees, because of injuries in the game, as we approach a minute to go, Aerial Powers in!
The bench.
All the injured players to not just cheerlead, but also to give advice to all the newbies. Big block by Powers.
Good help side by Aerial.
Possession by possession, Indiana clawed its way back. Gateway Center Arena was deafening loud, shrill, overwhelming, but the Fever answered with sharp focus. They grinded out stops, scraped together points from every angle, and filled the court with sheer determination. By this stage, it was obvious. This wasn't about one superstar carrying the load. It was heart, playmaking, defense, and grit stitched together from every corner of the roster. And then, with the game hanging in the balance, the spotlight shifted. The outcome teetered on a single possession, and in that moment the ball found its way to an unlikely hero, a player who had struggled all night, now holding both the ball and the weight of history in her hands. What if your worst shooting night suddenly became your greatest moment? That was Lexie Hull's reality in Game 3. For most of the night, nothing would fall open, looks clanged, jumpers rimmed out, and each miss piled onto the next. You could see her battling the frustration, trying to keep her composure, but the rhythm just wasn't there. For a player who thrives on hitting shots and stretching the floor, it must have felt like the court was closing in around her. Still, Hull refused to fade. She dug in on defense, hustled through every possession, and stayed ready, waiting for the one chance to flip the script.
% in the first 2 games.
Good help by Alicia Gray there on Howard.
Hull?
With under 30 seconds left, all the frustration of Lexie Hull's shooting night suddenly had a chance to be erased. Indiana trailed by a single point, the tension of the shot clock pressing down on every possession. Kelsey Mitchell slashed to the rim with her trademark burst, finishing a layup off a perfect feed from Aaliyah Boston to keep hope alive. Atlanta answered, but the Fever refused to crack. On the next trip down, the ball swung around the arc and found Hull once more. Another open look. Another test of her resolve. And this time, she delivered, bearing the three that didn't just change the score, but breathed life back into her team. In that instant, Hull's toughest night became her defining one, and Indiana carried that spark into the final stretch.
Ball screen has worked for Kelsey Mitchell, but that time, she gives it up to Hull. And how about that shot by Lexie Hull?
But the game was far from finished. With just 7.4 seconds on the clock, Atlanta prepared for an inbound play that would decide their season. One clean pass, one good look. That was all the Dream needed to steal back everything Indiana had fought for. The entire arena expected the ball to land safely in Atlanta's hands. Then, in a heartbeat, Lexie Hull saw it differently. Reading her defender's eyes, anticipating the passing lane, she lunged without hesitation. In one clean motion, she intercepted the ball, snatching away Atlanta's hope and sealing Indiana's survival with a game-saving steal.
Howard gets it in, but it's knocked away by Lexie Hull. Hull with the steal. And the Indiana Fever, beset by major injuries all year long, are on the doorstep of making the semifinals.
That single play changed everything. The Fever weren't just clinging to survival anymore, they were heading to the WNBA Semifinals for the first time since 2015. Odyssey Sims sealed the night with a free throw, but it was Hull's steal that etched itself into memory. What began as a wasted shooting night became the defining moment of the series. Hull's steal wasn't only about basketball instincts, it embodied the spirit of this Indiana team all season long. No excuses, no matter the setbacks. You might not score. You might fight through frustration. But when your team needs you most, you answer. Hull did exactly that. And in doing so, she forever tied her name to the end of a decade-long drought. From that steal to the eruption of celebration that followed, everything flipped. Indiana was finally back.
Fever are heading to the semifinals of the WNBA for the first time in 10 years. Kelsey Mitchell said, all that we've got, and we have all that we need, cobbling together this roster, and here they are, about to be in the Final Four.
What you thought was impossible is possible. A team that has been devastated by injury, rallying on the road. One more time.
Picture the Indiana Fever locker room after the final buzzer. 10 years of waiting, 10 years of questions, heartbreak, and quiet frustration shattered in an instant. Players who had carried the scars of losing seasons were suddenly smiling like kids again. Kelsey Mitchell was one of the first to grab her teammates, pulling them into a tight embrace, her face lit with relief and joy. Aaliyah Boston sat for a moment with tears in her eyes, the weight of history finally sinking in. And Lexie Hull, the same player who sealed the win with a steal, clutched the game ball like it was pure gold, proudly holding it up to every camera in sight for veterans like Brianna Turner and Odyssey Sims, who had journeyed through teams and roles. This night meant something deeper. It wasn't just another win, it was validation. Proof that their fight, their minutes, and their resilience carried a value powerful enough to change the course of an entire season.
Y'all are a tough bunch of I mean, I cannot even put into words how proud I am. It's like the toughness that it takes, like the gut checks that it takes. Like, y'all, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because we've been through all of it, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter the circumstance, it doesn't matter the score, it doesn't matter the time. You always put your best foot forward. You always get to the next play. And it's always someone different.
I referenced it twice. It is Indiana. Dropped 2 of the 3 games to them this year, but you haven't seen them since late July. What excites you about that matchup?
That they haven't seen the releases yet. They caught us when we were a bit in turmoil. Not only that, they whooped us. one of those stretches. So, you know what, we'll buckle in, hone in where we can, and take care of business.
Even Caitlin Clark, despite missing the game, was fully in the mix. She spent the night on the bench yelling, waving towels, and pouring herself into every possession. After the win, she posted in all caps, "Fever Show," adorned with hearts and team colors. For someone forced to watch from the sidelines, her emotions spoke volumes. This team had grown tighter, more unified than ever. Every player, on the court or off, had a hand in this moment. The locker room didn't feel like a celebration of luck. It felt like a family savoring a victory they had truly earned. Yet the joy didn't erase reality. Head coach Stephanie White reminded everyone this was only step one. Waiting ahead were the Las Vegas Aces, a championship-caliber roster featuring Aya Wilson, Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, and a depth built to punish mistakes. Aces coach Becky Hammon only added to the challenge, sending a clear warning: they haven't seen the real Aces yet. With a best-of-5 series looming, Indiana would have to navigate adjustments, survive sustained runs, and contend with a team experienced at the highest